All right, well, I wanted to do a quick video on this, not put too much effort into it, but this kind of concludes the last couple days of I had that last video was just a deeply fucked up, turn of events and just a deeply fucked up story. For two sides, I mean, number one, it was grotesque what happened in Charlie Kirk and horrible. And we also saw just a ton of leftists coming out of the depths and pits of wherever these people propagate and just showing their true colors. It was just awful. Just absolutely awful what these people are all about. So yeah, I mean that was the most shocking thing about the murder. And just the grotesque nature of it, man. The poor dude, oh, poor dude. Just sunny day, Utah, beautiful day. Guy's got his whole life ahead of him, beautiful family, and just to be taken out like that, is my heart bleeds for his family, man. That is just traumatic on all levels. It was traumatic for a lot of people, and you can see that on the right. But for whatever reason, the strangest thing about this whole thing was the leftist, you know, man, it's just the way they were about it. Just groveling in the horrible nature of it all. But they got the guy, apparently. It's already on. This is on the third person, but this one feels a little bit more concrete. I mean, looks like the guy in the video in the pictures they released. He looks like I mean, obviously just a deranged person who was completely enveloped in far left insanity online, Discord. He's written things on the weapons like, take that fascist, and this is an Antifa thing. So Antifa needs to be designated as a terrorist organization. If Trump doesn't do that over that, I think all throughout the Western world, Antifa is a terrorist organization. They are bad. They need to be designated as such, and society can move on knowing that these weirdos are it's they call it Antifa, but in reality it's just far left extremism. That's the definition of what that name actually implies. They're not fighting against fascism, they're not beating anything. We don't live in, some dystopian future where they're taking all your, marching through the street. So that needs to happen because this guy was obviously just a retard that got sucked into all types of Reddit, Discord backrooms and poisoned his mind, poisoned with these evil ideologies, and this is what happened. So they think that, I mean, it's got to be pretty solid this time. I don't think they would even dare to announce it after the first two failures. So yeah, apparently they got the guy. Mainstream media is doing it, running with it. Apparently his parents or whatever turned him in. So you can see it how obvious it is that you have a guy who had a conservative family who got twisted online into this craziness of that, and he probably had a lot of animosity in his own ways towards his own family and conservative views, and by being poisoned online contributed him to him doing this awful, terrible act. So I mean, this is the situation. This is all we have on it right now. This is all you can really do with such an annunciation. Is that obviously the dude's a crazy leftist. Obviously, Antifa and all that crap is involved. And whatever fallout comes from this, there's fallout coming out. But you're seeing online some insane vitriol on towards certain groups. What do I mean by that? I mean there's like so many people getting fired over their comments on Charlie Kirk on social media, and yeah. So I mean, look at that. That's like pretty obvious how twisted that guy came. But this is the biggest, other fallout. is that they are they are totally in cahoots with being fired and losing their jobs over posts. Now, people have incredible. You got to realize that you are not anonymous online, and you are not. And if you think you are, you're an idiot, because even the most safeguarded people, you leave a trace everywhere you go online. Unless you're, you know, uh, a character from the Matrix, you're not gonna get away with, posting an anime furry profile picture on Twitter and becoming totally a ghost, because that's just not the way it works. People have ways of finding it, and that's what's been happening here, is that people will post on their anonymous Reddit accounts or TikToks or blue sky accounts, and then people can find them and fire them. It's like it's happening in this huge scale of people, so it's quite hilarious. And my response to that is fucking good. This MSNBC idiot got fired because he said something insensitive. There's been so many cases, former legal aid employee post deeply offensive, celebrate. So it's making the news, and these people are reaping. I've seen quite a few videos, people like crying online and stuff because fired, like it just goes absolutely on. So there's this huge thing going on. So it's like, if you were an employer and you knew that your employee was celebrating the tragic loss of another human being, what kind of a fucking person are you? Like, I mean, come on, use your goddamn head. Like, think about that for a second. So, yeah. It's like, yeah, obviously, that's going to be a thing. Leave, placed on leave, fired, fire her. So people are just like, they're crusading in this kind of valiant nature for Charlie Kirk, because, dude, the dude, that was a tragedy, man. If these people, and people have said this online, is that they're like, if these people would do this to Charlie Kirk, they would do it to you too, for like having your opinions. And that is just wrong. That is just wrong under every metric. And it's showing, I think it's showing that the right is more, have better values. We knew this all along. I mean, all of the values of the right are human values. So you fucking like, they're showing the true colors. And then some of the weirdos with anime furry weirdness pronouns go as so far as to make jokes and memes and horrible shit over it. Some of these people maybe don't even, do that. Hashtag. Thank you for bringing this matter to attention. I want to be clear, the content you share runs counter to ethic values. It's just been fired for a job. So many people are gonna be like, nobody's gonna care about this, and they're like, oh shit. Now it's become kind of like this cultural thing, and it is really, 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 really hurting these things. But yeah, I mean, this is an event that I think has really resonated with people, because, and I knew this right on when this occurred, is that it's just a very awful event. A guy, he's got nice shoes on, bright sunny day in Utah, successful young man, debating politics on a bright sunny day in Utah, has his whole life ahead of him. His family was there. And some fucking crazed Antifa leftist who's been brainwashed on Reddit and fucking Discord and his little group chats of furry weirdos, gamers. I mean, I'm a gamer. I'm not saying anything bad about gamers, but I'm saying that there's a subculture of, I'm definitely a right-leaning person, but there's this like subculture of gamers that are weirdos, and they spend more time discussing twisted anti-fascist crazed leftist rhetoric than they do actually playing video games. And when they do, they often play the weirdest fucking shit imaginable. So yeah, I mean, it's it's a messed up situation, and I just like my freaking heart goes out to his family because that was an extraordinarily brutal video. As a person who's well accustomed to, cartel videos and just curiosity about human anatomy and Ukraine war videos, I'm no stranger to these things and what can happen when when the physics of laws of nature occur and a human body is dispatched like that. But the video itself is awful. It's terrifying because this isn't like, a Ukraine soldier in the middle of the trenches. This is a dude just on a college campus innocently speaking his mind. And this is the dangerous rhetoric of the left, is that they're willing to go outside of that, the spectrum of, people just expressing their opinions and trying to, lock down what they believe is right. They're willing to go farther than, disagreeing with someone. It's all points to this stuff, and you can see on here. Wait, do we have Reddit? I didn't want to make this video too long because, like, oops, this this whole situation is just crazy, and it will be talked about like just in so many rungs of society. But Reddit is doing something weird, really weird, and they're trying to spin this like, oh, he was a Republican, conservative parents. It's like, why would the guy take out like a prominent conservative Republican pro-Trump person if he was pro-Trump himself? It's so fucked up how they try and spin that. So it's so fucked up how they spin it. Anything for a win is what leftists will do. Yeah, no kidding. Look at that's downvoted. See how they do that on Reddit sometimes they have it so that you cannot see the downvotes simply because Mirzov's not an answer, but Charlie Kirk actually was an interesting good face to say he was a debater, he was a podcaster, a professional troll. Nothing would have come of engaging on except supplying him with content. What? It's really weird shit. Yeah, it's a very interesting story, and I think the more we explore it, the more we realize that Antifa needs to be a terrorist organization. It's spread all throughout the West. It's in every dark corner of the internet, and Antifa that is what they do. They do these kinds of things. They are the textbook definition of domestic terrorism, and they need to be treated as such because they are just whack jobs. So yeah, Reddit is really weird, and this is Reddit is a breeding ground for these things. Weird. Yeah, it's just really weird. It's a weird situation. And until we get more, I mean, this is the story now. Tragic thing that happened to a young man, crazed internet sleuth, became radicalized, lashed out against the world and his parents or whatever. And this is the world's result. This is what happens. Trump that that was probably all somewhat planned because he wanted to bring it in a closure type. No, you're not going to get too much more out of this story, I think, in terms of until we see the facts and the law and all the different little things they find along the way, breadcrumbs, right? But yeah, you can tell from that guy's face, and apparently he was suicidal, and but I mean, you can just tell this is a guy who's like on Discord, Antifa channels, super against Trump, super against all this stuff. Thinks the you know, believes in some of the weird shit that people do online. You can tell by all the stuff he did, all those breadcrumbs we already have. It's wrong. But what is the worst of this all on the another side of the spectrum is just all these leftists coming out of the woodwork going cheer like evil devils and demons. They literally are cackling away at the loss of that. And to be fair, you're also seeing a little bit of people on the left going like, hey, like didn't like Trump, didn't like, Charlie Kirk, but this was wrong. So hats off to those people. And I think it just kind of it splits the left down the center because now there's the, you know against what happened and the pro what happened on the left. So they've splintered themselves even more, and it's very telling. It's very fucking telling. But this is the story I have. I didn't want to do too many videos on it because people just I feel the same thing, and I imagine a lot of more prominent talkers and tubers and influencers and shit like that say is that there's something about this story that just leaves this nasty feeling in your stomach. The grotesque nature of the video, the political um, divide that's occurring in Western society. It's it's weird and it's very wrong, and it doesn't feel like this feels like this doesn't do anything towards making it better, if not making it 100 times worse. The firings, now you're gonna get, let's just assume this. Now you're gonna get some crazy leftist, all the flags and bios, pronouns she, her, they, them, Antifa, hates Trump, blah blah blah. You're gonna get a person like that that is now fired from a job they used to supply them with the money for their apartment or whatever, because right wingers were upset over Charlie Kirk thing. So that it's like a domino effect, and then now you've got someone who's just crazed, radicalized over it because their personal life was affected over this politics that is resonating in the world, and it's just it is what it is, man. Like it's gonna get worse. So it's terrifying to think of. Comic book. This was my favorite one because you can see that despite all this intense, heavy shit, there's still like, people, the more less serious side of everything. You got people that are like, gamers and game developers that got fired, and it's like, you got that more light-hearted side of it all that's just harmless banter back and forth between the left and right, which is what it should be. You should never resort to what happened to Charlie Kirk. The playful banter at the bottom of it all, the less serious things, is like this DC Comics creature got their whole book line was like canceled and fired from DC Comics, and like her whole thing was uploaded. And of course, the right wing spectrum of gaming and arts are this is a major win. I would say this is a huge fucking win against this thing because they just can't. No company that stands in the public presence is going to like support that. Like maybe you're an indie game dev who you've done it all yourself, and all your LLCs are like under your own name, and like you're 100% self-sufficient. Maybe you could get away with that. But I mean, credit card companies, you're still always tied to the system. But like if you're like a DC brand thing, like you can spew fuck Trump all you want BS, but the moment you start, they have one of their idiot people, um, DC Comics, DC Comics Council released the book series. Officer Gretchen Felker Martin reported wrote on that. Hope the bull. Jesus, like what an evil creature that is. MSBN, NBC, but yeah, like if you're a public facing image, the moment you start praising someone's erasure, that's a standard that the world just does not allow, and you are not cool with that level of hatred, just vile, evil. I said this on my video because everybody was feeling that when they look online. Because you can't when you look online and you see someone else's comics, like thing about like their like comment or post is that like you can't dissuade you can't how can you have a conversation with someone who praises this. You just can't, like, you can't. I could never get in the minds of someone who thinks that evil about, I don't know, about their leftist views, or so to speak. You just can't. You can't. I could never relate to someone who is like that. And here's a whole bunch of others. You gotta wonder how it's maybe some of these coming out are fake, but you can see a lot of real ones. Yeah, no kidding. Jesus. God, Jesus. To have that thought, and a lot of the fallout's going to be coming over the week, over like the course of a week, because a lot of these companies now are getting these like random anonymous need to be verified. But as it becomes more of a cultural thing, companies are going to be on the lookout for that. They're going to look at their blue-haired, rainbow painted um, fingernails staff, being like, you don't say anything about this, because we're gonna have to fire you. You can't, if it gets out into the public eye, like a lot of these people have been. You're not gonna be able to just say, well, we needed her, so we had to keep her. Oh God. Call for major Marvel star to be fired over Chris Pratt praying for him. They're just evil. They're just vile people, man. It's so crazy. But I mean, lastly, to finish off the conversation about the suspect. Well, I guess you'd call him suspect. It has to be solid. They would need to be solid. I think they have DNA, right? So like, outside of this all, like, most people don't realize just the extensive nature they have to track all these things. But like, they have the DNA from where he was on the roof. Verifiably, if there's human DNA, only one that they found on that one little side of the roof he jumped off on, skin cells and whatever else, and they match with him, he's done. There's no way. It's a lot of these like investigators, crime scene investigators, who do deal with like just random gang shootings in some suburb or something. You can piece together like a 100% match. It was him. And I think even from like the confession and his location and like all the different parts of that evidence, I think there's enough for it to be him 100%. But surely once they start collecting hair samples and DNA, he's done for. Like, there's no way he's gonna be able to sneak out of that one. There's just no way. So I feel fairly confident. They got the guy. Obviously he knows he's potentially facing the death penalty or in life. So maybe he thought he could truly get away. It's like maybe he really did think he was gonna get away with this, because there was some serious thought into like concealment. Not really so much, like how is he gonna? But it seemed to suggest, based upon what happened, is that he kind of looked like he was attempting to get away with it, which is just insane way for them to think. Um, but I mean, obviously, we know the motive. They're gonna prod in. They want to know the motive, even though you kind of already know it. I mean, this is an Antifa, leftist, anti-Trump, poisoned by the media, poisoned by people online, deranged ideologies that seem to think that, yeah, this is this big thing. So yeah, you have some pretty solid things. Look at that, hey, Jesus. And then he went back there. There was so much confusion there, but yeah, and then they have, obviously they have cameras and shit all throughout there. These people all have doorbell cams. Um, and yeah, this is what happened. There's really no other. This is where we are. Like, people are gonna be hunting down every little detail of every little conspiracy and what happened. But here's the facts: a young man was needlessly taken from this world in an absolutely, truly awful and brutal fashion for voicing his political ideas by a deranged young man who is poisoned by leftists online, Antifa, far left ideology, craziness, anti-Trump, all that rhetoric. And he just thought, I could become maybe I could get away with this, ran through his neighborhoods, ditched the thing, but, this wasn't going to take long. I mean, it's only been since Wednesday, hasn't it? A couple days. So, I mean, these things do take time, and there are people make mistakes. So obviously they caught the wrong guy once, released him. Caught another guy, released him. This is pretty cut and dry. This is the guy. It's insanity. So yeah, I mean, I don't expect to do much more on videos on this because there's not much more to cover. Sad. It's fucking sad to say that there's really not much more to it than that. And like the people saying that this was a he was a Republican, or he was he was pro-Trump. Why would someone do that if their true core beliefs were that they supported that person? So fucking stupid. But this is what they do, is that they're going to do everything. Like, the left is going to do everything they can to distance themselves from this shit, everything possible, because ultimately they just don't want to they don't want people viewing their shit in a negative light, even though many of them are going, yay, praise it, and blah, blah, blah. It's awful. It's a choice, yeah. Yeah. Everything you do is a choice. And this young, evil dude who got truly poisoned online became this, let's see, Al Jazeera. You can imagine, I mean, the US and Canadian and Australian and UK, you can imagine these sides, left versus right. But a lot of these Al Jazeeras and these independents and these, other countries are going to be reporting on this from a very, very, very middle ground. Of course, they have problems with the left and right as well. But the facts, if you looked at this from an outside country and from American politics, I mean, Canada is basically the same as the U.S. I mean, we're two sides of the same coin. But from like a Middle Eastern or Eastern European, or like some far off land, they're gonna see this in a totally different light, saying, yes, this is exactly what it is. Hey, fascist, catch. Yeah, it was an Antifa leftist, far left, radicalist, and that's kind of what they concede. He was a martyr for truth. Now, admittedly, I've been in the space for a while. I think it was either Matt Walsh or Charlie Kirk. One of those two had responded to one of my comments, and we had a discussion. I don't think it was Charlie Kirk. I think it was Matt Walsh. Oh, not Matt Walsh. Yeah, one of those, and or Matt. What's the other one? One of these right wing guys. But I mean, yeah, I've never interacted with any of these bigger players, but we. I've kind of seen from the sidelines in Charlie Kirk, and he seemed like he was just a really good dude. Had right leaning opinions to some, but overall, he's a good person. He's not what they make him out to be, and that's the saddest part of this all is that these people get twisted into thinking just some innocent young man is the evil enemy, and that's what media does. That's what social media does. Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, I wanted to cover this. This is pretty much a good generalization of the events that occurred. Tons of leftists are getting fired. This guy was obviously into all kinds of weird shit. The leftists are freaking out because it's obviously painting them in a bad light. They're trying to spin it. And, yeah. Crazy turn of events this week. This week was just insanity. You had the Irina thing, which is still, like, being propped up into the conversation along with this. You often see on Twitter, like, both of their pictures posted at the same time. Because they're two just innocent people taken out by liberalism and insanity of left, and just uh, both both sides of the same coin again. So yeah, dude literally just did not deserve it. Insomniac Games, craziness, really craziness. This was a bad one. This lady was just like, you can't fake that. And really, like, what kind of a person are you? Like, what kind of a person are you if you cheer on that, the horrible situation? His young girls were going to run from him because of the loud sound because they're scared. His poor wife, it's like, how could anybody? And this is what you gotta think: is it how in any world could people be that evil? And it's like, in this world. It's like these people. This isn't even scratch the surface of the depths of the weird troon anime furry people who are like literally like making t-shirts and shit over it. It's just like you cannot you cannot like um you can't even scratch the surface of how deranged and crazy these people are. Huh. But yeah, anyways, that's some pretty insane stuff. That's the essence of the whole conversation. Crazed leftist insanity. He's not doing well right now. That's for sure, because the dude is, if they've it looks like they have, and they do, once they match all the dots, it's over for him. He faces the death penalty. He's never getting out of prison. It's And at 22 too, to be radicalized by leftist insanity at that young age, it's all the more reason to teach your kids to stay away from leftism and support a more conservative viewpoint on life, because it's the party of insanity and violence. They and once you start talking into Antifas and the furry militia type shit that they get into, they're fucking lost forever. And there's probably horror stories. My heart goes out to all the parents and children and what have you that have kids who fall into this just strange corner of our society that we call leftism and far left radicalism. It's so messed up. And yeah, that's my thoughts on it. Wanted to do in-depth video because yeah, I'm gonna get back to just doing gaming stuff and making weird videos and fun stuff. And the channel kind of had a couple spikes here and there, but for the most part, still dragging until I'm done with this last community violation. The last one was from calling Jason Schreier annoying. I think the only reason I got that community violation was was because I had gotten some of his pictures from Wikipedia or something like that. But yeah, no, the channel is gonna focus on same thing: divisions, politics, gaming, weird stuff, funny stuff, hilarious stuff. Me just speaking my mind. That's what I do here. I just turn the camera on, and this is me. A cool Canuck who's willing to speak his mind for change in the world. And man, let's go. Let's not make this about this retard. Um, let's get a picture of him. There we go, man. And Charlie Kirk, my heart goes out for you, man. Rest in peace. I'm for sure gonna keep talking because, like I said in another video, he doesn't have a voice anymore. But our voices are all gonna become a million times stronger because we realize that our politics are what you know. That's all we have in our life is what we believe is right and true. And I agreed with probably most of what he says. Some of the things I maybe didn't would have disagreed with him. But yeah, it's uh, it's really sad. It's a really sad story, and I think it's just a messed up culture. Like our society is really messed up, and we need people who can be cool, level-headed, and people who can inspire other people to be themselves and to talk. So yeah, that's my video. Peace out. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk, and screw his evil attacker.